Okay, I believe we are just about set. Yeah, let's get to the main screen. And good evening, everyone. All right. Hopefully, I won't be too tired to work on stuff tonight. Also, if Brazalga, or actually, I don't really remember how to pronounce your name. Sorry. All right. Don't know if I'm gonna have guests tonight, but I left the channel open just in case. So, anytime I'm gonna go ahead and find some good background noise. Uh, hmm. Yeah, let's go with some. Oh, I'm drawing one of my OCs, and as for what specifically, gonna be Rachel. She's a Burt Gardevoir Naga, and I let Wheel decide, pick the prompt, and it landed on Sonic style. Yeah. That's not what I looked for. Yeah, also for some reason YouTube's lagging today, so it's also not what I... whatever. It works. Turn it down a little bit. Alright, let's see if I can improvise the sonic proportions for this. Oh, hey, Bush. And yeah, Anthem versions have chests, so. And yeah, I gotta turn those to glows so then what the thumbs are. Yeah, it's gonna be portions. I'm gonna have a pseudo nuzzle here. Definitely gonna need to improvise a background for this. Ah. Yeah, I think I can try something. Ah, yeah, I think that might be because I accidentally started the stream without changing the info, so I wound up going offline so I could change it again. It's a kind of a real pain to change the info in the VODs, so that's kind of why I do it. Alright, so yeah, seems like probably not gonna get any members in the reactions. So I guess tonight I'm doing it solo. Alright. So yeah, tonight I am going to be reacting to the recent Magic Mush video. The pathetic publicity stunts that caused peril. Yeah, let's get the video on screen, actually. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And like a lot of other videos, I'm actually going into this one blind, so yeah, gonna be a bit of an interesting experience. Yeah, I haven't actually reacted to a Magic Mush video in a good while, so let's go ahead and get started.
Ah, current year. I love current year. Don't you love current year? Current year is great. A lot of our
Yeah, that mood kinda summarize my feelings on the recent decades, so yeah, good start. And damn, I'm new too.
culture and the lovely times of current year revolves around what products you should buy, what you should consume to fill the empty void in your heart. The hot thing is Labubu's and whatnot. Both are more so seen as a status symbol and will probably be in landfills by this time next year. But people
Ain't that the truth? I honestly don't give a shit about the boo-boos. I know I don't know, I just don't really hop onto a whole lot of trends anymore. Haven't for a good while. I mean, I'm a vtuber, but doesn't really mean I have to mesh with others. Also kind of sucks since trends typically beat algorithms, so yeah, I'm kind of sabotaging myself here. But enough of my first world problems.
aren't just going to buy what you're selling out of the blue, you need to give them a reason to do so. And you do that by advertising to them. Yada yada capitalism, blah blah consumerism, you know the whole song and dance by now. Companies and people want you to buy their product, and they'll do so by any means necessary. Maybe they'll create some eye-catching and memorable advertisements, or maybe they'll pay content creators online to sell you their product. I wonder who could be doing that, or if they really wanted to get the attention of the masses,
I wonder.
they would pull a publicity stunt. This is where the person or company in question would do a massive stunt in order to gain the attention of the masses, so they could sell more of their product. From turning 7-Elevens into quickie bars for the Simpsons movie, to leaving arms around London to sell Mad World, to jumping from outer space into the stratosphere for some Red Bull, the lengths some of these companies went to is insane. But you know what's more impressive than seeing these impressive stunts? Seeing them fail! Well, preferably seeing them fail without somebody getting hurt in the process, which is sadly not the case for a few of these. These stunts went horribly wrong, and I decided to look at a few of these cases and why they ended up failing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to... But before we start, this video is sponsored by
Alright, you guys know
Just
the
because I can
drill.
dissect the concept and analyze it, doesn't mean I'm immune to it. Yes, ZogDog liked my videos enough to sponsor me again. Hooray for me. We all know the healthcare industry is a huge mess. You'll get referrals for referrals to several doctors just to find out what's wrong with you, and then that's just the start. I've had times where I was sick as a dog and clearly needed to go see someone, but just didn't because the entire process to go see them just wasn't worth it in the end, and I just waited it out. Probably not the best choice. If only there were a more simplified and easy way to see the doctor you need, and that's what ZocDoc is for. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. And ZocDoc isn't just one type of care. They have more than 100,000 providers across nearly every specialty, from primary care to dental health, eye care to urgent care to mental health, and more. It's the one-stop shop for all your healthcare needs. No need to call doctor's offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. With ZocDoc, you can filter for doctors by insurance, location, and specialties, and see reviews by verified patients so you can choose the best, most convenient care for you. And when you've seen the doctor you need, you can see their actual appointment openings. Plus, ZocDoc helps you get appointments fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score some same-day appointments. Stop waiting and start getting the care you need. Go to my link in the description or pinned comment to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/magicmush. Seriously, it's that easy. Thank you, ZocDoc, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it.
Yeah, even when we get to dunk on capitalism, capitalism still wins. Such is indeed the tragedy of the living in a capitalist society. Ah, well. On to our entertainment to make us forget a little bit more. Nintendo-themed transitions.
The PlayStation.
Start with a Sony.
This little device is one of the greatest handheld systems of all time. With a fantastic and underrated library of games, oh, if you love RPGs the way I do, the PSP has a wonderful lineup of them. The ability to watch movies, listen to music, surf the web, it could do all of this in a pre-smartphone world. It was definitely ahead of its time. It ended up selling 80 million units, the most ever by a non-Nintendo handheld system.
Yeah, kinda easy to forget this, but despite what people dunking on the PSP, it's still a pretty good console. I just wish Sony just did a better job maintaining it. And maybe it could have done better in the modern world. But yeah, let's be real here. Knowing Sony, they would find a way to fuck it up. Just ask the Vita. PlayStation's own Wii U.
And somehow, it's still fucking lost to the DS. I guess if you don't have Pokemon, you're just destined to lose to Nintendo in this field. But I assume it just wasn't the lack of Pokemon. I think another thing that hindered the PSP's true potential was Sony themselves. You see, the marketing for the PSP was awful. And what I mean by that is, it's not that they didn't market it, it's the fact that what they used to display their product was horrendous. Some of you might remember these animated ads for the system that just didn't make any sense.
Come out and play!
Yeah. Here's a bit of backstory for those types of ads. Sony typically used more art house-ish, extreme marketing to appeal to more mature audiences, but of course, not all of them really panned out. I am not going to be playing the infamous PS3 ads. You probably already saw them. And purposely blocked them out of your mind.
I can't! I'm playing Nut! But there's Portable Nut! What?
Yeah, and there's a good reason I ultimately remember Ego Raptor's parody of this far better than this ad campaign. I mean, yeah, we all dunk on Ecoraptor nowadays, but he was actually someone worth talking about out in the Newgrounds era, which was the early to late 2000s.
Yeah, it's a nut you can play with outside.
PSP. It's like a nut you can play with outside.
It's like a nut that you can play outside. That doesn't tell me anything about the product or what it does. There's also other variations where it's like Mexican dust bunnies.
Ow, but there's portable carpet.
You've got to be kidding.
Hey, have you ever heard of Dust Ball Kid?
Not really.
Well then, believe me when I tell you there's carpet you can watch outside. Dun, 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 dun.
PSP. It's like carpet you can watch outside.
First, I'd arrest every guy in the whole world, even if I had to jump from car to car or use crazy weapons. And then I'd have every woman to myself, and I'd fly them to Vegas and marry every single woman in the world.
Okay, so he's seriously
And
just
then
gonna
I'd
play
take them
every
all over
cringe
to my love boat.
PSP
But then I realized I
ad.
married every woman, even the ugly ones. So I'd escape on my motorcycle with uglies chasing me, screaming, "Hi, but I have a great personality!"
I don't know who was on the marketing team that created these, but I hope they got fired, rehired somewhere else, and then fired again.
Yeah, I hope so too.
The fuck you just call me? Not to mention, some of the advertisements drew a ton of controversy because, well, just look at it. That pretty much speaks for itself. But despite the crappy commercials, anyone who went out and actually bought a PSP probably loved it. And some would even go as far as to create entire websites to show their love for the system. And in November of 2006, a blog was created by the name of All I
And many of them would mainly just jailbreak the system and use it as a emulation device. Because let's be real here, you can't stop the emulators. Piracy will always exist. But yeah, let's get back to the most infamous of the cringe commercial.
want for Xmas is a PSP. Well, this is the perfect time to cover this topic, isn't it? This website said it was made by a guy named Charlie to show his friends, and potentially anyone reading it, that the PSP would be the perfect holiday gift, and its entire existence is to show how awesome the PSP is. Everything posted here is related to the PSP in some shape or form, be it having you print out a fake dollar bill to buy a PSP, where its value is...
Yeah, if anyone knows Sony, you probably already immediately know the punchline to this story. In fact, it's probably not even the worst campaign they've ever done. Hello, Ghostbusters 2016. I am still holding every grudge for getting Trump's first term. Yeah, among other things that probably contributed to that, but let's not delve into that. I'll be here all day.
Suspiciously the same price as the PSP's price tag, or having you download this PSP-flavored iron-on pattern for t-shirts. God, don't these two individuals look enthusiastic. Oh, and how about this ad that claims it's not an ad? You know, these are some professional-looking items for a small blog that is supposedly made by some teenagers, but I digress. My favorite post is the one where they recommend doing these tasks with your hands to annoy everyone around you until you can feel those hands with a PSP. Like constantly challenging people to thumb wrestling matches, or squeaking your pet's squeak toy. Wait, why is squeak toy in quotations? This website also has music videos based around the PSP.
You know why?
The first one is a metal song sung by a band named Avex. Never heard of them? Neither have I. But listen to the fire they got to show us. Well, maybe metal isn't everyone's cup of tea, and that's why they will put out a second music video, this being a Christmas-themed rap on how awesome the PSP is.
I love the big screen, so fresh and so clean. It's all in my dreams. It makes me want to scream.
Yeah, apologies to everyone who has to hear this.
PSP, PSP.
we all had to deal with it.
If this doesn't convince you to get a PSP this Christmas, I don't know what will.
All I want for Christmas is my PSP. Wanna play when I'm walking down the street. All I want for Christmas is my PSP.
Jesus
Come on,
fucking
Dad,
Christ,
get
this
one
is
for me.
cringe.
And well, that's the entire site. Everything on it would go mostly unnoticed until it was discovered the following month of December and posted to the Something Awful forums. It was found out very quickly. The entire website's domain was registered under a marketing agency known as Zippatoni, which was an agency that was hired to do underground.
Yeah, this was back in the day when Something Awful still had clout. Oh, also, yeah, sorry, I didn't notice your dialogue there. Bro, Gala, I kind of had to hide OBS as to watch the video. But, yeah. I like how there are no doctors available in my area on this site. Boy, those were the days.
Marketing stunts for the companies that hired them, and they also had a 23,000-pound smiling tomato as a mascot. Do with that what you will. So that would mean the entire website was nothing more than a big advertisement. Sony had hired Zippatoni to create this website. When you find that out, everything on this blog takes on a completely different meaning. The lingo and the style of the site is nothing more than the company's attempt to be hip with the kids of the 2000s, trying to latch on to the then growing popularity of the web.
For shizzy.
Man, we got beats like it was the listeners on Earth.
That entire cringy music video was not made by a teenager, but more than likely a man in his late 20s and is an actual paid shill, attempting to make a viral video, and it probably costed several $1,000s to shoot this travesty. The jig was up. After this discovery was made, the mostly inactive blog was now flooded with hundreds of comments lambasting the company's shoddy attempt at connecting with the youth and trying to be hip and cool. And then later, the media got a hold of this and had a field day with it. This entire thing had completely blown up in Sony and Zippatoni's face.
Yo, what is up? I is MC Cousin Jeff's Plumber, and I is here to tell you about Sony, who is doing the PSP, which is the
good
number
old-fashioned
one
Ashens.
thing for the Christmas. Yeah.
Not only that,
I had to
but
watch
the
more of his
people who
videos.
found out that the entire thing was a marketing stunt had also tracked down every single person who set the site up, including one guy who hadn't worked there in years but had his name registered in the site anyway, which ended up with him suing the company for invasion of privacy, as if this publicity stunt couldn't get any more disastrous. The website eventually updated and confirmed, yes, it was all true. It was all just a big ad after all. They apologized and said the website was now going to be a hub for anything and everything cool related to the PSP, but it wouldn't even stick to that, as not too long after this, the website's domain went defunct, and was later bought out and transformed into a website dedicated to selling Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And so, that is the tale of all I want for Xmas is a PSP. The thing that shocked me the most was how short the time frame this all transpired in. In about a month's time, this website was created, found out, and then killed off before 2006 was even over. Here today, gone tomorrow, as they say. But the true reason this entire website was a complete failure was because I don't think it ended up actually selling more PSPs, which, like I said, was a great system. All it ended up being was another bad marketing choice surrounding the system, and more controversy for Sony. Hell, it even ended up creating a lawsuit by the end of it, so yeah, I'd call that a failure. But at least we got a really funny rap song created by a corporation trying to appeal to mid-2000s teens. It doesn't get any more out of touch than this.
Keeping it real.
I mean, it was 2000, so
Nothing
it got
more
plenty
classic
worse.
than a publicity stunt ruined by sheer stupidity. Who likes Snapple? Well, to be honest, never really tried that many Snapple drinks in my life. Can't really tell you if they're good or not. But
I sadly can't buy Snapple anymore because, well, shit's expensive around here. Also, I just kind of buy most of my drinks at... Also, I just kind of drink kombucha nowadays. And whatever drink I buy at McDonald's whenever I'm walking. I don't even remember how Snapple tastes. Might just be iced tea, but kind of worse. And I don't drink a lot of iced tea these days either. Yeah, but
I imagine Snapple has its fans. They're still going for a reason, unlike some drinks. You bastards didn't buy enough Orbis. It got discontinued the year I was born, and I didn't even get to try any. Maybe it was good. Maybe it tasted like ass. I'll never get to know now because you didn't buy enough.
That was terrible. It wasn't so much the drink itself, it was the little ball.
Drinks that existed before I did aside, Snapple in 2005 decided to release a brand of Snapple-flavored popsicles for the world to try, but it just didn't stop at that. They wanted this release of popsicles to be big, and to make sure they were remembered, they decided to break a world record by making the world's biggest popsicle. The people over in the Snapple laboratories created a 25...
okay, second time I'm heard of orbits this week. Ah, that's a weird coincidence. Yeah, too bad I didn't get to try it myself. Would have been a really fun gimmick drink to, I don't know, try and then never drink again. Kind of like a lot of mineral waters I've tried over the years, now that I think about it.
foot, 17-ton popsicle to tower over and make others feel inadequate about their own popsicles, and they decide to take this monster and show it to the world to advertise their new line of popsicles. The issue, though, is that they decide to take this popsicle and show it off in New York City, in the middle of June, in the summer heat. Elementary school science class
do it in California.
When ice gets hot, it melts. The scientists were able to craft this giant popsicle, but they never stopped to think taking this behemoth to the middle of New York City in the summer of 2005 was a very bad idea, but they did it anyway. When it finally got there and was held up by a crane, it almost immediately began to start melting. This giant popsicle started leaking gallons upon gallons of slush, and was turning the street into the river of slime from Ghostbusters 2. People started fleeing the scene. Apparently one lady had to be hospitalized after slipping on the slush. Some guys on bikes were thrown from them, and eventually the police and the fire department were called and just shut everything down. Just a moment of pure incompetence. It just baffles me. Did they really not have any precautions in place in case this happened? They couldn't have brought it in a giant freezer or something? Did they think the thing wasn't going to start melting the moment it got there? Well, it did. And they're probably never going to live it down. Really, this isn't an advertisement.
I mean, I never heard of this
like
instance, so
global warming.
Probably did. Oh boy, the EA section. This is gonna be good.
Mercenaries 2. It's one of those hidden gems of the 7th generation. It got lost in the flood of hyper-violent gun shooting games that were everywhere during that period. In order to advertise it, EA decided the best thing to do was to give away something the average adult needed for free. If there's one thing that should be learned from this video, when it comes to offering something to the public for free, for the love of God, be careful. When people hear something is free, they will trample anyone who gets in their way. It doesn't even have to be free. Just good deals will make people go crazy. But in this case, EA went and decided to give away over 20,000 pounds of free gas to the people of London. And when you hear free gas...
So, roughly, 8 cars worth of gas. Thank you, inflation.
Everyone is going to come running. But there was one big issue. They did keep true to their word. They did give tons of cars free gas. But the issue was, they only did this stunt at one gas station. One. Uno. Singular. I don't think EA was prepared for the onslaught coming when they mentioned free gas, because people started lining up for several miles. The people of London wanted that free gas. Hell, I bet the vast majority of the people doing this had no intention of buying Mercenaries 2, or even knew what the hell Mercenaries 2 even was. Word quickly spread throughout London about the free gas, and eventually everyone started piling up trying to get it, which ended up completely destroying the flow of traffic in the city. People were gridlocked for hours, school buses couldn't get kids to school, and hell, some
I don't know, that just sounds like a typical day in London from what I hear. Anyone from London is probably gonna have to confirm that.
cars while waiting in line for the free gas ended up running out of gas in the process. Ironic.
Do you think it's caused a bit of problems?
Of course it has.
You think...
I'll have an empty tank by the time I get there.
Yeah, I'll be up there some more.
Yeah, no, it's great. Free fuel. Queue's a bit naughty, but hey-ho.
Few beeps. It's been alright though.
Sadly for EA, they never did end up giving out that £20,000 worth of petrol, as they got to about halfway of that goal until the police shut the entire event down due to the disruptions it was causing. Mercenaries 2, I heard, is a decent game, never played it, but it sadly didn't do the gangbusters that EA had hoped for, as they killed off the studio that made it the following year, and this was likely the last act of generosity EA has ever made
about
since.
right.
So yeah, this is what happens when word gets out about free gasoline. Honestly, you should have made them buy a copy of Mercenaries 2 before giving them free gas. You would have sold way more doing that.
If they'd given it a bit more thought.
Actually, yeah, that is the better idea. Why didn't they just do that? Would have sold the freaking game, and you wouldn't have disrupted the entire freaking traffic of London.
Then they might not have caused the chaos that they did.
Boy.
You know what's the best way to sell your product to people? By giving it to them without them even knowing. Long-running Irish alternative rock band U2 was putting out their newest album in 2014 called The Songs of Innocence. But to make sure this album was a smash hit, they made a collaborative deal with Apple to get their album out to the widest audience possible. In fact, if you were an Apple Music user in 2014, you got the entire album for completely free. And this made it one of the biggest album releases of all time. But it wasn't because people were clamoring for Bono and really wanted to listen to it. The album was completely free for all Apple Music users, but the problem was, it just wasn't there for a free download. Oh no. Apple went out of their way and forcibly downloaded the album on every single Apple Music account out there. Over 500 million people woke up to a brand new U2 album on their account. It doesn't matter if you didn't like U2 or even knew who U2 was. You were getting U2 and you were going to like it.
I still don't know who they are.
Does it really count as the biggest album release of all time if people who never asked for it had it given to them anyway? Oh, and by the way, no, you can't delete the album. If you attempt to remove it, it'll only just come back. It's
yeah, this album was basically the Google Plus of music albums. No one wants it, but you're getting it anyways.
Basically a tumor on your Apple Music account. Many people were not happy that Apple gave them an album they did not ask for. The backlash was pretty fierce, and it became a huge controversy for both Apple and U2, causing huge blows to their reputation.
The company slipped U2's new album, Songs of Innocence, into your iTunes account, whether you wanted it or not, and boy did some people get mad.
This stunt was mocked and parodied across all of social media. It became the subject of sketch comedy skits on late night shows.
We are going a step farther and are introducing Apple's new Erase U2 service, which will not only remove all memories of the latest U2 album, but will also remove any memory of the band U2 whatsoever.
And even Apple themselves had a whole tool dedicated to deleting the song off your phone. But even then, once you did this, there was no way to get the album back. You either ride with Bono or you die without him. People still give U2 and Apple shit to this day about this album release. And it's not even like it's a really good album. It's not bad either. It's just average. And that's perhaps the most offensive thing about it. You now have mediocrity permanently installed on your Apple Music account. And 11 years later, some people still have this album stuck on their account. People have had their entire music libraries wiped from system errors, and the album is still there. A living piece of evidence to the time Bono pissed off millions of people by showing up where he wasn't wanted. I'm kind of cheating with this one, as it seems the company never actually went through with this publicity stunt, but they were 100% serious about it. In the 2000s, the gaming company Acclaim, you know the ones that were making all those Mortal Kombat console ports, were in dire straits.
Okay, yeah, here's something about Acclaim. They were, they took probably every note from Rockstar's marketing tactics and proceeded to study them religiously. And improve on, and quote unquote, improve on the quote unquote weaker aspects of the marketing stunts. And let me tell you, Acclaim's marketing was completely batshit. Magic Much will go over one of their more infamous debacles, since you have to hear this with your own ears.
Their profits were dwindling and their sales were dropping, so they started doing some really desperate advertising campaigns and finding any sort of way to get their games to sell better. One of their big releases of 2002 was the sequel to the 1999 hidden gem Shadow Man.
Shadow Man. Second Coming.
Thank you. But to try and make sure this game was a smash hit, they crafted an absolutely absurd advertising campaign. Acclaim crafted this idea instead of using the typical billboards and commercials to sell Second Coming. They thought, since it's a spooky game that's all about death and ghosts and skeletons and shit, what if we used the dead to sell the game? They attempted to offer any recently grieving families in the United Kingdom an opportunity. If they approached Acclaim after a loved one recently passed away, Acclaim would pay for all the funeral expenses, if the family allowed them to put an advertisement for Shadow Man Second Coming on their loved one's tombstone. They would have the tombstones and then put a little plaque on them advertising the game. Now, of course...
Yeah. That was actually one of their ideas. He did not make any part of that up. Acclaim really is that batshit crazy.
Of course, this is all sorts of weird and fucked up to use actual dead people's tombstones to sell your game. Cemeteries are meant to be a sacred place where the dead rest, their final place in the world, and just walking in there and seeing an advertisement for a video game kinda ruins that. Acclaim said it was meant to help poorer families who couldn't afford the funeral costs, but I doubt even they would be that desperate to go for this. And this was 2002, so the plaque would become extremely outdated since cemeteries and tombstones are meant to last much longer than how long Shadow Man Second Coming was meant to be relevant. And if you're wondering, no, it's never been confirmed if anyone actually ended up doing this. There is not a single picture online of an actual tombstone showing this campaign in motion, which means Acclaim must have chickened out at the last minute. And it's not like it helped the game any, because I see no one talking about Shadow Man Second Coming, well, anywhere. Hell, this failed advertising campaign is talked more about than the actual game itself, and because of that, Acclaim never recovered from their money problems and eventually shut their doors in 2004. I hope in some form of twisted irony, someone left a huge advertisement of Shadow Man Second Coming on their abandoned company building. A cartoon that exploded in popularity in the mid-2010s was none other than Rick and Morty. It went from another one of Adult Swim's weird animated shows to the hottest shit in your local Hot Topic. It just connected with a ton of people and made them feel smart just for watching it, smarter than the average person.
Yeah, and of course, similar to Glee, the later seasons kind of ruined the case. Hey! Typical. Once they find a really good formula, someone will find a way to run it into the ground. And note that I am also completely avoiding mentioning the showrunners' controversies, to put it mildly. But yeah, let's continue.
And because of this, the show really gained a foothold on Reddit. Rick and Morty is a Reddit show. It just feels like it was made for them. But it wasn't Adult Swim who attempted a publicity stunt that blew up in their faces. Rather, it was another company who was attempting to cash in on the show's popularity. In one episode, Rick goes back to 1998, pulls up at a McDonald's, and orders some McNuggets and a bunch of Szechuan sauces. Which, well, let Rick explain it.
In 1998, they had this promotion for the Disney film Mulan, where they created a new sauce for the McNuggets called Szechuan sauce, and it's delicious. And then they got rid of it, and now it's gone.
Well, at least the show was nice enough to do my job for me. After this episode aired, there was all of a sudden a ton of talk about Szechuan sauce, the most amount that it had been talked about in almost 2 decades. There was now a ton of demand for this sauce. If only there was a corporation that was quietly listening and ready to give the world what they craved. On October 1st, 2017, McDonald's announced that they were bringing Szechuan sauces back for a limited time in a limited amount. By sheer coincidence, I bet no connection to a certain cartoon at all. Yeah, they never officially specified the reason why they were bringing the sauce back, but they hinted and winked at the people watching. It was pretty obvious. Now, this is...
Yeah, and we all know how that ended. Foreshadowing is a literary device.
This is a fun thing to do in concept, but the issue was, McDonald's was not prepared for the onslaught that was coming. Now, when I say this was a limited release, I mean it was a limited release. Like, maybe a handful of sauces per location. And well, this simply would not do. The Redditors were lining up around the block for their Rick and Morty sauce. They didn't want it. No, they needed this sauce.
I'm driven by finding that McNugget sauce. I want that Mulan McNugget sauce, Morty.
People were waiting outside at night, waiting for the McDonald's to open so they could get their Rick and Morty sauce. Lines of people went on and on and on, all for a chance to get that delicious Szechuan. When the McDonald's finally opened, they all rushed in, and the locations quickly ran out of sauces. And as a result, the Redditors revolted.
Yeah, do you understand why everyone now thinks this show is cringe? Reddit ruins everything. Not just the algorithms.
At numerous locations, there was pure rage and outbreaks. All over some sauce they were probably going to take back home, take a picture of it, post online for some upvotes, and then throw it in the trash. This eventually spiraled out of control, where people started getting hostile over the sauce.
Get the fuck out of my way! Get the fuck out of my way!
Yeah, at least Pokemon cards are last more than 5 minutes. Not defending the fucking Pokemon scalpers either. I'm just saying there are far better things to actually scalp. Fuck, even the Beanie Babies were better scalping fodder.
You can't help but feel bad for the minimum wage workers, having to put up with the rage of dozens of Redditors. They didn't sign up for this. It wasn't their fault McDonald's didn't give them enough packets to meet the demand. The one clip you see all the time relating to this incident was this guy.
I want Szechuan sauce. Where's my Szechuan sauce?
Ah, God, this cringe.
What beloved dog dog? I'm Pickle Rick!
It's been confirmed this guy didn't even want any sauce. He just wanted to fuck with the staff.
No, that was a joke video. It was a very heavily planned one too. So it was like a few days before I was saying that like all the Rick and Morty fans were freaking out over it, and I was like telling my friends like, yo, I got it. This is like the perfect opportunity to make some art.
And of course, then people started selling off their.
Look, ironic cringe is still cringe, bud. We're still gonna call you a fucking asshole.
sauces for loads of money, so some people were at least happy that day. Apparently, one guy traded his fucking car for just one packet of this sauce. That just goes to show you the power of a fad. I mean, a car, really? McDonald's eventually sent out an apology for not meeting the demand of the sauce, and promised they would bring more in during the winter, but by that time everybody stopped giving a shit. While this is technically a PR disaster for McDonald's, who severely underestimated the demand that bringing back the sauce would create, I feel this is actually a bigger disaster for the Rick and Morty fanbase. This incident permanently damaged the Rick and Morty fanbase's reputation. That copy pasta that was going around already did a lot of it, but this tanked the reputation of anyone who claimed they were a fan of the show, because they would forever be related to the people who made protests demanding sauce from McDonald's just because it was in the show. And also, this guy faking it didn't help either. It's one of the most...
Yeah, I still think the copy pasta did a lot more damage, but yeah, this incident really didn't help.
ridiculous things a fan base has ever done to the public. And while McDonald's messed up by underestimating the rage of Redditors, I think the people who did any of this in the first place probably need more self-reflection than the company. One of the things you probably don't want to do is involve religion in your publicity stunts. That's definitely a one-way trip to start some kind of controversy. But what do you do when your product involves religion in some way? Well, in comes the 2010 hack and slash adventure Dante's Inferno. You ever played Dante's Inferno? I have, and let me tell you, it's God of War, but in hell. It's literally a one-to-one clone of God of War, but with a Christianity flavor added to it. That doesn't mean it's bad, far from it. It's a really well-polished game, and it's fun if you like those old-school God of Wars, but don't go in expecting something you haven't seen before.
Yeah, Dante's Inferno was probably one of the few God of War clones back in the day that actually understood the assignment, so to say. A lot of them just kinda sucked. And let me tell you, if you're complaining about military shooters if you were complaining about military shooters back in the day being way too prevalent, they were nothing compared to the God of War clone. Every jackass was trying to make a God of War clone, and managing to find new ways to make them even more boring and repetitive. And unironically, one of the few God of War clones to actually kind of work is unironically Rayman 3. Yeah, Rayman 3 is one of the only freaking God of War clones to actually be good. Or maybe it's a Devil May Cry clone? I don't know. Mainly because the combat was actually very well integrated into the platforming, which actually kind of made it stand out a whole lot more now that I think about it. Sure, the jokes are pretty dated in that game, but yeah, let's be real, it's a whole lot better than a lot of platformers of its day. And didn't Rayman 3 come out for God of War? Give me 1 second. I'm gonna verify that. But you know, it actually does. Actually was. Guess that explains why it didn't fall for many of God of War's numerous traps. They're practically codifying it. If it's actually a Devil May Cry clone. Devil May Cry. Fine. Okay, so it came out after Devil May Cry. So, yeah, it's definitely a Devil May Cry clone. Let's see, what were we talking? Oh, yeah, the fake Christian protest that Magic Mush was talking about.
Despite making God of War in hell, EA didn't really know how to market this game, and as a result, they did some really goofy and silly shit with the marketing. One of them was sending game journalists $200 checks to market the game, seeing if they would give in to greed. The real greed being that the billion-dollar company was only willing to give them $200 for a publicity stunt. That's tiddlywinks money. Some journalists started receiving these strange wooden boxes with Dante's Inferno's logo on them, and when opened up, they would play Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. With no way to cut it off unless you destroyed the box to disable the speaker. I'm all for pissing off game journalists like this, but that probably didn't help the game's reception. Another incident was what happened at E3 2009. Dante's Inferno was shown off at the event and was heavily advertised as one of their big games coming out soon, but some weren't a fan of it, it seems, as right outside the event there was about 20 or so Christians protesting the game, calling it evil and satanic, and EA was the devil.
Hello? I'd like to say that Electronic Arts is some sort of antichrist for trying to make this game Dante's Inferno.
Which game?
I don't know if that's well, Dante's Inferno particularly. This game that they're we've heard that they are promoting inside, and we want to say that this game, we hope that it never comes to market. Let's just be honest with that.
Walking up to them, they would give you a pamphlet which led to a website spouting more of the same stuff about EA being evil, which to be fair they are. Stuck-up religious people protesting something isn't anything new. This actually goes pretty deep, as there are more videos with the protesters eventually breaking into the Electronic Arts headquarters.
Yeah, gotta remember, EA lacks a lot of self-awareness, like every other company.
In order to protest the game.
Is watching you! Give me your arms! Sir! How did you understand this is what you're doing?
This is actually nuts. Why don't more people talk about this? Well, it turns out EA eventually came out and revealed these were not real Christian protesters. They were paid actors. Everything you just saw was completely fake and
And, yeah, this wasn't the first time this, happened. Sadly, protesters have been, let's see, how do I put it this mildly? Let's see. Fraudulent. Yeah, it's, a lot of protests tended to be extremely fraudulent. Major companies kind of discovered pretty sinisterly that protests are very easy ways to drum up attention. And sadly, that's how a lot of marketing kind of operates these days. Of course, unlike EA, this actually kind of backfired on them, but
staged. EA went for the good old bad publicity is still publicity tactic to try and get more eyes on Dante's Inferno, which gave them a ton of backlash from actual Christian networks for purposely making them look bad, all to sell a video game. And that's not even the most controversial thing they did.
Let's see, they didn't need our help! Yeah, sorry, I had to make that joke.
To advertise the game, as they held a contest called Sin to Win, for people to take pictures with the Dante's Inferno booth babes as an act of sin, and then post it online to spread publicity about the game, and whoever won would win a dinner and a sinful night with 2 hot girls, a limo with paparazzi, and a chest full of booty. They knew.
So they were basically just, taking non-consensual pics of... Oh wait, this is actually consensual, never mind. Never mind. I don't know where this point was going. But yeah, I could definitely see how this could backfire.
What market they were going for with this one. This contest was so controversial, EA ended up having to apologize and clarify mostly everything was exaggerated. There was one more attempt to try and advertise it, and I will admit, this one is pretty funny. There was this entire website created for a fake video game called Mass We Pray, in which it seems to be a motion-controlled video game using a cross and kneeler to worship the Lord.
Add the kneeler accessory and get off the couch and into the action.
On their website, you can read up on the creation of the game and who made it, but any attempts to actually buy it, it just sends you promotion for Dante's Inferno. I'll give them credit. This one got a chuckle out of me. It's God of War in hell. How hard is that to advertise? None of this was necessary to sell the game.
I mean, it was kind of gaming in the late 2000s and early 2010s, so pretty freaking hard. If you're not Call of Duty, you're kind of screwed when it comes to marketing, is what I'm saying.
Hell, all this fake controversy, all this talk about sin and evil, the devil and hell, all this for a game that, at the end of the day, wasn't even all that offensive. Like, you're Dante, and you're in hell, fighting demons. That's about all there is to it. It's as offensive as Doom is. Hell, it's probably the greatest Christian game ever made, since you are literally using the power of God to take out all these demons, and the game itself is actually fun. But man, did they drop the ball with advertising this game.
Yeah, it's kind of sucks because that advertising campaign is probably what many people are going to remember this game for. Other than it being a God of War clone. It really sucks whenever controversy gets attached to something that's otherwise pretty alright. And it's actually one of the biggest flaws with no such thing as good publicity. Sometimes that publicity is going to be the only thing you're going to be known for. As we pretty much already saw with the infamous Szechuan sauce incident. And hell, Acclaim is... People only know Acclaim nowadays for their completely batshit advertising campaigns. As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. By this incident. So, yeah, I might have a tangent later. But, yeah, if anyone knows the story behind this pretty horrible incident, here's a bit of a refresher.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force at 11.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I really didn't get it as a kid, but as I got older, I slowly grew to love the show more and more for what it was. Well, I probably should have been watching this as a kid anyway. Carl is still the best character in the show. He's literally me. Fat, bald, and a wicked sense of humor.
Tonight, you will get your dick ripped off. That doesn't sound right, does it?
The show had slowly grown in popularity over the 2000s, and by 2007, it was time for them to go big. In 2007, the show would get its own movie, the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie film for theaters. And they decided to do some weird advertising for this film. One of them was creating a bunch of fake endings for the film and spreading them across different places, and you'd have to watch the actual film to see the real one. One of them was a reward for beating the Flash game worst game ever, which is quite a feat because, well... yes, this is the entire game. Another one I actually experienced was for April Fool's 2007. They played the entire film on the channel early, but then they shoved it into a box at the bottom left of the screen, while the actual lineup for the night played, with an exception here and there. I actually caught this live back when it happened in 2007, and I was so confused why they did this. To be honest, I forgot it was April Fool's that day. But all of these would be overshadowed by the big publicity stunt they pulled in the real world. Adult Swim would secretly put up these LED lights of Moon Nights from the show in the middle of the night in big cities all around the United States. Really just some subliminal advertising, reminding you the show exists and that the movie was coming out soon.
Are you smoking yet?
Plenty of the lights went off without a hitch. There was no cause for alarm. But in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, there was a different reaction. People started noticing the signs over the next few days, and well, the city of Boston thought they were bombs. On January...
yeah, that was, not a very smart move, was it? Like, I know guerrilla marketing's a thing, but... holy shit, guys. Could you not have chosen a better way to do it? Especially to an audience who probably doesn't remember what the fuck a light bright even is.
February 31st, 2007, people started freaking out and started contacting the police over these things, telling them that there was what seemed to be a bomb in their vicinity, and which they started sending out bomb squads to retrieve them and disable them, only to get a hold of them and come to the realization these were just a bunch of lights. These weren't bombs. They found out that the characters were from an Adult Swim cartoon and quickly put together this was all a publicity stunt. So millions of taxpayer dollars were wasted just taking down some glorified light brights. But for some reason, once the news and the media got a hold of this incident, they all blamed the company and the guys who put the things up.
All of us, individuals who might be placing these bombs, or these packages I should say, should be warned that this is a heavy penalty. It's imprisonment, 2 to 5 years for each one of them. So we're not playing around.
The media acted like the company and the guys who did this just got caught eating puppies, but in reality, they just put up a bunch of lights and people overreacted. It doesn't even look that much like a bomb. In fact, there was another bomb-related publicity stunt the year previous with Mission Impossible 3, and those look sketchy, but it was just a speaker. Technically, you can make a bomb look like anything, but this was really pushing it.
But what is that thing supposed to be? That's the super bomb. The super bomb. The super bomb. Why can't that bomb look like a bomb? Fucking Spider-Man. Yeah.
Adult Swim, and by proxy Cartoon Network, was forced to pay millions in damages and apologize for causing the panic. And that would seem to be where things ended. Except, well, not really. This publicity stunt caused a domino effect and affected the trajectory of Cartoon Network as a company forever.
Oh, so he's
in the
gonna
early to mid
point this out.
2000s, Cartoon Network was absolutely at its peak. They had so many classic shows coming out. Samurai Jack, Teen Titans, Megas XLR, Grim Adventures. Not to mention Toonami was a thing as well. It was the perfect era. But anyone who grew up in the 2000s would also know that Cartoon Network started to suck by the late 2000s. They killed Toonami, all your favorite TV shows were being replaced with live-action slop, and there was only like a handful of good cartoons actually airing. What the hell happened? Well, it turns out the Boston Moon and Night Panic played a part in Cartoon Network ending up like this. Not only was Cartoon Network forced to apologize and pay for the damages, the then president of CN at the time, a man named Jim Samples, who was the one running Cartoon Network during their golden age, Jim took full responsibility for this incident, and after it occurred, he announced he was stepping down and leaving the company because of it. After his departure, he was replaced by this man. This is Stuart Snyder. Stuart Snyder is a very interesting man. Despite working at Cartoon Network, Snyder really seemed to not like cartoons that much, as his idea for the company was to start adding live-action shows to their catalog. Snyder reportedly wanted to expand the network's scope and add stuff like golf and military training shows to the channel. Ah yes, nothing like coming home from a long day of school, cutting Cartoon Network on, only to be treated by fucking golf! Sorry to all golf lovers, the sport itself is fun, but watching somebody else play it is torture. Snyder's vision was what created CN Real, which in turn led to the creation of some truly terrible shows. It was bad enough that we got garbage like Out of Jimmy's Head, but behind the scenes, things were even worse. They were firing everyone that was working on cartoons at the time. The people who had been there for years and built the company's foundation were being let.
Oh, hey Tony. Sorry I didn't hear you come in. I was kind of busy watching the video. But yeah, I'm watching Magic Mush's recent video on pathetic publicity stunts that caused peril. So, yeah. It's interesting to think the Light Bright incident indirectly led to Cartoon Network jumping the shark. For literally no other reason than a freaking CEO who didn't realize cartoons were still fucking popular. Also completely ignoring the anime boom that was currently happening in the 2000s. Snyder was a fucking dumbass.
Go just because they didn't see a need to keep them around anymore. The creator Billy and Mandy Maxwell Adams said on his Tumblr blog, they were firing everyone left and right. People were being flown out to the LA headquarters just to fire them, all so they could make way for their new vision, live action. That was now the company's future, except it wasn't. CN Real was a humongous failure. People came to Cartoon Network to watch cartoons. Stuart Snyder quickly realized this wasn't going to work, and he quickly backpedaled, and then the next era of Cartoon Network could get back on track. Adventure Time, Regular Show, Gumball, and endless Teen Titans Go reruns. And to think, none of that would have happened had the president at the time not left after the Boston incident. Look, all these publicity stunts in this video were bad. They all ended in disaster, some people ended up getting hurt, but the company's moved on. They can just throw out money like it's water to fix anything. They'll make it back in like a day. This stunt actively changed Cartoon Network's future. This incident led to a change in leadership that took a company in its golden years to have it slowly being killed from the inside and having hundreds of people lose their jobs because of it. All because the city of Boston thought these things were bombs. The best thing we got from all of this was the guys who set the lights up were interviewed on national television, and you can tell they know this situation is ridiculous and they're just yucking it up. You can't help but love them.
I think my dreadlocks are pretty nice and they're gonna keep growing for a little while. And maybe they'll reach my knees or something. I don't know what
I'm getting sort of more due to get a haircut because it's getting in my bangs now.
I feel like my hair is pretty perfect, but altogether I want to redirect this onto the topic of haircuts in the 70s because I want to educate myself about it a little bit more.
As I said, they've been advised not to speak about the case.
Have they been advised to act like they're not taking this seriously?
We're taking this very seriously. We've already
What was it like to spend last night in jail?
That's not a hair question, I'm sorry.
Aqua Teen itself ended up making an episode about the event that never ended up airing.
There we go. Those are energy efficient and harmless to humans.
And as for the actual movie,
yeah, sounds about right. Also, I didn't see these live action shows on Cartoon Network. Yeah, this was likely just an American branch thing, so that ultimately makes sense. Gotta remember, television networks kind of run differently in other countries, so yeah, it makes sense that you wouldn't really hear of this incident.
I recently watched it for the very first time, and well, it's just a very long episode of the show. So if you like the show, you'll love it, but it wasn't worth all this, to be honest. So the next time you remember the time Cartoon Network started removing all of its cartoons, you can blame Stuart Snyder, the city of Boston, and the Moonanites.
I hope you can see this because I'm doing it as hard as I can.
Well, there you have it. A couple of cases of publicity stunts that went wrong. It just goes to show you what a company is willing to do to get you to buy their stuff. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Even though these all ended up being PR disasters for the companies involved, even when they're crashing and burning, you can't help but be entertained. I'd make some comparison to a train wreck.
Well, except for the Cartoon Network one.
As a publicity stunt in the 1800s.
Everyone suffered from that.
So that'd probably be in poor taste. This is the end of the vid, my friends. If you can think of any other publicity stunts that went wrong, because I know I missed a ton, be sure to let me know down in the comments. God bless, like and subscribe, and good night.
Bombs? You want it? It's yours, my friend.
Here in San Francisco, we're gonna let off some balloons. We're gonna let off some balloons. We're gonna let off. We're gonna let off. We're gonna let off some balloons. Let them go. Let them go. Here in San Francisco, let them go. And they're all biodegradable, by the way.
I I seem to remember there was a very popular song back in the day about 99 red balloons. Don't remember what it was called, though. But yeah, that was Magic Mush's video on the... pathetic publicity stunts. Pretty entertaining video, I gotta say. Typical Magic Mush. Alright. Let's see. What else to watch? Test Scorcher is actually a pretty good... Has some pretty good stuff to react to. Actually, since I react to a Magic Mush video, probably go ahead and react to another video of theirs I've been meaning to actually do a reaction to. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Like, that's the... And YouTube is absolutely dreadful when you're trying to watch it while streaming. Maybe it's my internet. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's go ahead and find it. Alright, there we go. So, yeah. This is gonna be a kind of sequel to my very first reaction video, actually. So, yeah. If anyone's a veteran of this channel, you probably remember I did a reaction video to Magic Mush's video on Andrew Dobson. I figured after about, oh, it was 5 months ago. Time really does fly. So yeah, after about 5 months, I may as well do the follow-up and actually react to Movie Bob. If anyone doesn't really know that story, then here's a bit of a TLDR. Movie Bob was one of the very first video game commentators to actually gain fame, and he was also, and very similar to Extra Credits, he also went completely batshit insane. And I don't just mean basic political grifter or shit. I mean full-blown believed in eugenics. Fucking insane. We'll ultimately get there. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the Magic Mush's video on Movie Bob. Actually, before I start, I have one more thing to actually say. Similar to Andrew Dobson, I also used to be a fan of Movie Bob. Back when he was doing the whole Game Over Thinker shtick. But, of course, as time went on, and more shit about Movie Bob kinda came out, yeah, it was, yeah, I kinda stopped. Alright, let's get started.
Everyone's a critic.
Ain't that the truth?
This quote remains true, especially in the age of the internet. Anyone can give their opinion and take on something they enjoy or dislike, and the whole world can see it. Now, whether that opinion is worth listening to is entirely up to the beholder. Some people usually agree with the opinions they hold, or they just like the personality and charisma the critics have. There are dozens of critics online to watch, and all each have their own way they review, be it movies, games, or sometimes both. This leads us to who we're talking about today. This is Bob Chipman, also known as Movie Bob. Movie Bob is an internet critic who started all the way back in 2008, and was one of the few online internet critics to gain a following, not counting a certain other critic. Movie Bob got noticed during this time, and even managed to get noticed by a few groups and websites because of his talent, and then got kicked by website after website due to an unhealthy addiction to a certain Blue Bird app and his own ideologies. Movie Bob went from a hardcore Nintendo...
Yeah, it's sadly the certain, well, X app now, but I have no idea how to make that joke work, actually. Never mind. If I ever discover what Bob Chipman's Blue Sky account might be, I'm probably gonna go ahead and block him immediately. Especially after his history.
A movie fan to someone who had his brain melted by politics. And we're going to talk about how this happened today. This is the story of Movie Bob.
Heyo, brothers!
Yeah, that costume, yeah, that costume is cringe, but I think even Bob kind of knew it was, and even used it as a running gag in his videos. Probably the only time he ever did self-deprecation, and ironically, so...
Now, usually a video like this will go into the subject in questions, early life, their upbringing, how they came to be an e-celeb, but we're gonna save that for later, and you'll see why. All you...
Foreshadowing is a literary device. Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's a very good reason we're saving that for last, because holy hell, that when you discover Movie Bob's backstory, everything is going to immediately click. It is genuinely the most batshit thing you'll ever hear. And it'll explain literally everything about the dude.
You need to know for the time being is, a mid-20s Bob Chipman saw what the likes of James Rolfe and Yahtzee were doing in the gaming scene on the internet, liked what he saw, and wanted to put his own spin on it. So, on February 2nd, 2008, the first game overthinker was introduced to the world.
I thought about starting this off with some sort of introduction, but honestly, you don't care. Many thanks if you were pretending to care anyway, but we both know you don't. Your first question is not, who is this guy, but rather what sets this guy apart from every other fucking game culture video rant guy on the web, and rightly so. When Sony's PlayStation broadened the gamer audience outside the traditional parameters of devoted nerddom, it brought in new audiences that found gaming's traditional design schematics, culled as they were from the same lovely brew of comic books, Dungeons & Dragons, Star Trek, Doctor Who, anime, and what have you like the rest of Atari generation nerddom, to be not entirely conducive to their personal vision of what was visually and tonally appealing.
Yeah, it's definitely a product of its time, the fast-talking, wisecracking clearly taken from the likes of Yahtzee. The very first episode is about No More Heroes.
Yeah, you gotta remember, this was back in the early YouTube era. Standards back then were, well, let me put it delicately, an afterthought. And many people knew this going in. Well, the rant tuber was literally just a guy sitting on a chair and just complaining about shit. Whatever came to mind. Which actually reminds me, maybe we should do a reaction to Big Al rants, because That story's actually pretty fun. Even has a bit of a heartwarming ending. But yeah, back to this.
And how unique it was among the sea of generic gritty games that were coming out around the time. And yeah, that's basically how things were in the late 2000s, so he kind of hit the mark with that one.
Yeah, that was, I can actually confirm that was true. It was also the same time as the retro boom, which, yeah, I think might be coming back given how every AAA game has ultimately turned to bloatware nowadays. And with the speedrunning community ultimately taking off, yeah, it's definitely making a comeback.
This is actually kind of fun and nostalgic. But the only thing about it is, the warning signs for what Bob would eventually become were here from the very start, including his fanatical fanboyism for Nintendo.
This guy is still the gold standard. This guy is still God. This
Foreshadowing is a literary device.
Gaming since the invention of jiggle physics.
He would also put out his very first movie review around the same time about the Sex and the City movie. And, yep, the same warning signs were there as well.
In what can only be described as a metatextually rich conceit of oddball casting, the 4 gay men in question are in fact portrayed on screen by 3 women, and 1 high-tech plasticine alloy skin cyborg built to resemble actress Kim Cattrall circa 1986.
Sometimes the foreshadowing could be obvious.
And if so, how's she looking?
He will put out a couple of more videos, covering stuff like the damsel in distress trope in games, reviewing more movies, and started getting a modest following for people who find the topics he was covering interesting. But you can tell in some of the videos, he was pitching his voice out to make it look like he was fast-talking like Yahtzee, which I found completely unnecessary.
I mean, the Super Mario Brothers...
Yeah, that was something Extra Credits also did, but, and I think they continued to do for a good while until they changed hosts. Well, they changed hosts to the hosts, and said host would ultimately forever have their names attached to a very infamous meme that spawned from... that ultimately became the biggest rallying cry for people who think Extra Credits jumped the shark, which they kind of did, to be fair. But yeah, that's not the topic of discussion at the moment.
Are working-class Italian plumbers from Brooklyn. That's pretty fucking American, and they represent certain quintessentially American traits like how courage and hard work can allow 2 ordinary guys to save an entire world.
I already discovered the AVGN when I was like 10 when these videos were coming out, so that was enough for me. But if I found Bob's videos around the time, I would have probably watched them. The style is very of the time that I would have liked. And yeah, Bob does let his political views slip in from time to time, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. But what really surprised me is how level-headed he is about it, at least in the early episodes. He's really calm and collected about them.
Look, even if you didn't vote for the guy or don't like his politics, just his existence is one of those things that speaks really positively of how far along we've come in some respects.
This is actually really surprising how tame he is about his views here. He knows the audience's enjoyment comes before anything. I can totally see why he grew a following back then. Eventually, Bob would start getting noticed by big publications. Well, big at the time, including Escapist Magazine and Screw Attack, and even managed to win a contest for the latter, having the best videos in that particular competition. And this, right here, shined a big light on everything. From his old blog posts, Bob seems happy. Yeah, he's very happy about making it big and getting noticed. It is almost a polar opposite to the movie Bob we know today. It's actually kind of sad looking at these old blogs, where Bob seems like he is genuinely excited and happy about making it somewhere in the world. Bob would eventually get picked up by the Escapists and Screw Attack to do shows for them, so he finally broke into the big boy scene, along the likes of Yahtzee and James Rolfe. And the game Overthinker itself got a huge budget increase. Instead of just talking over pictures, he started having live action segments and, very Very Linkara-style live-action overarching plots.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this was also a very huge trend at the time. Literally every freaking Nostalgia Critic clone and ABGN clone were decided to make overarching plots for whatever reason. Which, granted, VTubers also kind of do, but we're kind of self-aware enough to to put that outside of our streams as their own videos and such. Hey. Yeah.
Why have you not yet destroyed the Overthinker?
You don't need to worry about that, Chief. Yeah, I zapped him the Wario's woods.
This is very style of the time, like I said. This hit all the stereotypes back in the day.
Yeah, interesting thing about his anti-Bob persona. He apparently was trying to emulate Dude Bro shtick, basically making huge pot shots at, I believe, the Rageaholic. In fact, someone I'm pretty sure half of you probably don't even know. That really shows a good target there, Bob. But yeah, apparently Rageaholic didn't even made a 5-minute rant roasting the dudes, mainly calling out Bob for being a massive fucking hypocrite and not even getting the details of his persona right. I believe some of the things Bob actually brought up was, I think some of the traits of Anti-Bob were he liked Call of Duty and he religiously, and he also liked Trevor from GTA 5. Except Rageaholic also didn't really care for the Call of Duty series either, if I recall correctly. I don't know, I don't actually watch his videos for a variety of reasons. And he also thinks that Trevor is an overrated character. So, and he did all that by just comparing clips. Alright, thoughts on Netflix buying Warner Brothers? Don't give a shit. Anyways, back to this.
He even had the dark persona of himself called the Anti-Thinker he had to fight. Oh man, these special effects are on par with Uganda films, and I'm pretty sure he had 10 times the budget of those.
Yeah, this was just style at the time. Definitely gory, but yeah, these effects don't hold up at all. Or at least they held up better than CG.
Was the cool thing to do. But the thing is, Bob, he's very clearly having fun with this. And that's the thing about it. He's having fun with this. And probably getting his exercise for the month while doing it. This would continue on for a while, introducing characters like the Pyro Thinker and the Cryo Thinker. Oh, dear Christ. Where's the Sneed Thinker, Bob? So, as the show went on, his audience and social status would grow, and alongside it, his ego.
Oh, yeah, the Pyro Thinker and Cryo Thinker were part of a arc involving a character he created called Strawman. It was heavily detailed cringe.
Ego. We're about to move on to our next chapter, but before we do that, I'm going to take you back to one of his oldest blog posts. When advertising his 5th episode of The Game Over Thinker, he says this in an old blog post. I've been hesitant to jump into politics too early. This is meant to be about the culture surrounding a hobby, not a political machine. And if you get into politics before establishing a broader identity, you risk getting pigeonholed as a liberal commentator or right-wing game rant guy, which can turn off a lot of people unnecessarily. Oh my God, if he only knew.
I mean, it worked for Azan and Destiny up until they got exposed for a ton of shit.
The early days movie Bob only knew what he would become.
Or perhaps he was always like that. And he just didn't notice until later.
Having seen an example of some of Bob's videos and their epic lore, when you watch them, do you ever think to yourself, God, I want to hear this man's political opinions and how to fix this country? Well, if you did, I simply have to ask.
What's wrong with you?
Also, before we continue, this is not...
If only more and more people actually ask that question of what's wrong with you. Probably wouldn't have so many political grifters these days. Or maybe we would. Fuck. The political divide of 2010s were pretty fucking dark times.
Not the part where I expose which side of petty online wars I'm on. Sorry folks, I shoved this fence post up my ass and I'm staying on it. Feels nice. As Bob gamed more...
Well, I've definitely heard of worse things being shoved up asses. Please do not clip this out of context.
More fame and recognition, he started realizing he had a voice that people actually listened to, and as time went on, he started slowly pulling cues from his own personal politics and putting them in his videos. There were signs of this already sprinkled in, as we've seen earlier, but now they were becoming flat out blatant. For those not aware, Bob is a self-proclaimed libertarian and is very much on the left side of things. He's very feminist, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Well, allegedly. His belief systems are so warped that there's a very good chance he's actually just a right-winger disguised as a leftist, so to speak.
In theory. But Bob is a special case. Bob holds very, very strange views and values that make everyone on every side of the political spectrum scratch their heads. We'll get to those at some point, but right now we're going to focus on a very important point in Bob's story. In 2014, a major event in the gaming scene happened. A little movement called Goobergate. Now, I want to admit something right here, right now. I have no clue what this movement was about. I mean, I knew about it. I got the basic details of it. Something to do with feminism and women in gaming and all that. But that's about...
It started because as Anita Sarkeesian was getting hate on Twitter. Or hate and death threats on Twitter. Then the news media just kind of picked up on the story because I guess it was a slow news day. Gotta say, honestly, looking back at it, Gamergate was sadly an inevitability given the hostile political environment. If it wasn't Anita, it was likely going to be one of another freaking person to hold up on a pedestal. A pedestal more fragile than the ego of Darkside Phil.
About all I got. Some people got sent death threats, some bad things happened in it, but that's all I can tell you. To this day, I cannot tell you what my stance on this is because I have no clue what to take a stance on. The main thing that confused me was the fact this movement didn't really seem to have a goal. I mean, all it was journalists and gamers flinging shit at each other for 2 or 3 years straight, and then it all just sort of stopped. I don't think...
It all stopped, yet no one would ever shut up about it afterwards. To the point where even the people on the side of the pro gamer gators, even they wanted it to fucking end. But numerous people just wanted more and more attention, and well, it just never came. Because people just had better shit to complain about. And let's be real here, it amounted to literally fuck all on either side. Journalism and gaming still sucks. We have freaking Trump as a president twice. Nobody wins, everyone lost. Now we have TERFs, so I think the feminism side just double lost there. Nothing was gonna get better. It was all a waste of fucking time.
Women were going to make gaming journalism better or worse in any way, because that was already in the dumpster at that point. Sorry ladies, you can't fix what is already broken. It's next to impossible to find a neutral standpoint on it. Even the Wikipedia article is extremely opinionated, and pretty obvious there were some edit words on this page alone. I don't think I've ever read a Wikipedia article that sounded so angry, but my stance on it...
I think it's still locked. Yeah, there was a shit ton of edit wars on the Gamergate page. And yeah, and think it's on the permanent lock lists on that site. I have to actually get that on, if I recall correctly.
Is completely irrelevant. What matters here is Bob's stance, and when we talk about women in gaming, he sees the women part and he's in. This would mark a sudden shift in Bob's content.
Oh boy, an incel being pro-feminism. This will totally lead to good things, I swear.
Which were very heavily opinionated on the topic of Gamergate and feminism. He was 100% on the side of women in gaming, which he has the full right to be if it weren't for the fact that he was now pissing on his own audience he'd built up over the course of 6 years. People who had watched him for years for his insight and takes on things, definitely not for his arcs and skits, were now being belittled by him and told they're toxic and need to change. There were definitely some bad apples during Goobergate, but instead of focusing solely on the bad apples, it was everyone who identified as a gamer.
I didn't start Gamergate or any of the other stupid outbursts that came before it. All I've ever tried to do is fight that mindset.
No, you didn't create it. You only trained it and armed it. And so they've turned your secondhand rifles on feminism, on minority voices, on independent developers, on socially conscious game journalists, innocent people who've committed no crime save for trying to elevate this medium and the discussion, all of which might have been averted had you and yours not chosen to also stop building after you'd stopped fighting.
Bob was balls deep.
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck that even was from. Kind of tuned out during before the Gamergate arc, even. Hey.
Deep in this movement, which must have sucked for him because that was the only thing he was ever balls deep in. It was even the topic for his series finale of the original run of the Game Overthinker, so that's how the OG series ended. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. He talked about it so much, he was eventually let go from Screw Attack, who tried remaining neutral, but Bob wasn't having any of it, so he got kicked. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. This is what started the transformation into the movie Bob we know today. The heavy political, no fun, no entertainment movie Bob who brings up his personal values and politics every chance he gets. If the movie or game has anything vaguely political or feminist in it, you can bet your ass he's gonna bring up his views and crap on the people who disagree with him.
In fact, if Joker does have a coherent thematic or moral arc to call its own, it doesn't, but if it did, it would boil down to Fleck's journey of self-actualization through realizing that while society can be tough, the real cause of all of your problems is probably a woman.
This also includes Ghostbusters 2016 and that whole debacle. You can take a wild guess what his views on that movie were.
Yeah. Starting to see why everyone considers Movie Bob an incel. Myself included. Fucking hell, man.
And almost a year's worth of internet man-babies crying about gender-flipped casting that the movie itself doesn't even make any kind of big deal out of, the Ghostbusters remake is actually pretty goddamn decent. Bottom line, 3 out of 4 stars, good but no classic, and seriously.
Yeah, he probably didn't even remotely pay attention to Ghostbusters 06. Them being women were 100% what they bring up all the time in that movie.
for a minute. If you really are one of these guys who's bent out of shape because they cast chicks in this one, please, for the love of Gozer, grow the fuck up.
So this is now the status quo for Movie Bob. Very politically and feminist driven, and maybe some people prefer this style, but only because they agree with it instead of actually being higher quality. His older fans were left in the dust, and a lot moved on. Speaking of moving on, after getting kicked from his old jobs, Bob would move all of his content to YouTube, and would then spend all his free time on a certain social media website everyone is familiar with.
Yeah, actually, he was always on YouTube. He just doubled down on it once he got fired. And yeah, he got fired a lot. And I mean a lot. A lot. He was genuinely that unpleasant.
With. After his makeover into the Bob we know today, Bob would get into arguments with people all the time. Most of his arguments would take place on our favorite website, Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Bob has a crippling Twitter addiction. He has, since 2011, made over 308,000 posts. Most of that is retweeting things that align with his ideals, or arguing with conservatives and right-wingers. Oh yeah, this is where Bob would express his undying hatred for the right. The 2016 election of Donald Duck absolutely broke Bob.
His hatred for the right that he also steals ideas from, I should point out.
I know a lot of people don't like Trump. I know a lot of people watching right now don't like him. That is perfectly...
I also don't like him. That doesn't mean I fucking like Movie Bob.
Fine. But I want you to take your hatred for Trump, multiply it by 100, and it is still only a fraction of how much Movie Bob despises him. He is the anti-Trump. If Trump likes something, Bob hates it. If Trump hates something, Bob loves it. If Trump had an internet review show in the early 2010s, he would have to fight Movie Bob as his alter ego at some point. His absolute hatred for Trump and his political opponents is monumental. He legit wishes for the eradication of them, and has flat out admitted he enjoys any scenes of movies that involve people under the umbrella getting brutally murdered and tortured in his reviews.
There is literally nothing going on beyond, hey, here's a whole mess of people the filmmakers and presumably most of their audience imagine it'd be satisfying to watch a brutally beaten to death being brutally beaten to death. Please enjoy. Yeah, I happen to be more or less on the same page with the movie. It was really, really, really satisfying to watch 50 or so get their skulls caved in for about 4 minutes.
He advocates for eugenics if it means wiping out people who don't agree with him. This is just flat-out psychotic behavior. This man has had his brain absolutely decimated by politics. This sounds...
Basic Twitter user, let's be real. But yeah, there's a good reason he and... Let's see, Andrew Dobson were often cited as the archetypical male feminist. Back then, I'm pretty sure they were often used as templates for said male feminists most of the time.
Legitimately unstable. This man is willing to go with any tactic if it means wiping out people who don't see eye to eye with him. And it's not just me with this fence post up my ass, is it? Does this sound sane to anyone under the same political umbrella with Bob?
Now, I can verify this as someone who's actually under that political umbrella. Bob is a fucking nut job.
His perfect utopia is a world where only intelligence and knowledge matter, and not physical strength or labor. He says, while saying a McDonald's meal that could feed 3 or 4 people is a fairly small amount of McDonald's for an average-sized person, and marinates chicken in Mountain Dew. And the rocket's red glare!
America!
Also, can't forget about his unquenchable thirst for the ladies. Yes, that's something I've alluded to, but Bob wants a lady friend badly. Bob is 100% the type of person who would use his opinions to get some. And I don't think, after all these years, he has succeeded at that in any way. Probably his biggest screw-up was...
Yeah, let's be real. If Movie Bob actually was successful, the dude would probably be a bigger sex pest than Destiny. I know that's hard to comprehend, but I do mean that genuinely.
With Lindsay Ellis, where he responded to a random tweet of hers saying they were friends, and Lindsay's response? Completely telling him off, calling him a creep and to stop following her. Bob did not take the response well.
I think they reconciled later, but I genuinely don't know. Lindsay definitely didn't deserve being ostracized from Twitter, though. But yeah, on to one of my favorite segments, and while ultimately one of the more controversial things about people will learn about Movie Bob, kinda illustrates my point of him being a right-winger disguised as a leftist. Yeah.
And now, it's time to play everyone's favorite quiz show, and you at home can play along too. Movie Bob or Nazi?
Okay, let's go ahead and
you decide if a court is for
start
Movie Bob or an actual self-proclaimed Nazi. Seems simple enough, so let's get right to it. Question 1. There are no bad tactics, only bad targets.
Now, this one's Neo.
If you said Movie Bob, you are absolutely correct.
Dang it!
Next question. America should confiscate the wealth of millionaire traders. We're not going to allow it to be used to erode the rights for our fellow Americans anymore. Now, who said
Okay, I
this?
definitely know this one's a Nazi.
If you guessed Movie Bob, you are wrong. Sorry, a Neo said this one, but don't worry, you can make up in the next round. Who said this quote? At a certain point, you had to become comfortable with the idea that a huge swaths of people are so and that they barely qualify as human. Now,
okay, this one's
go on, guess.
Definitely a Neo.
If you said Movie Bob, you are absolutely correct.
Fuck!
We have one more question for you today, and this is the one that will win them all. Who said
I can still make the
Stop
last
treating
one.
these like people. Are not redeemable and are not worth redeeming in the first place. They're the justly forgotten remnants of an inferior world that we have evolved beyond and escaped.
Okay.
Now,
is this one Movie Bob?
Go on.
Swear I heard a Neo say this one at one point.
If you said Movie Bob, you are correct. Congratulations.
Okay, it's Movie Bob. Yes.
This game may be over, but you can play this game yourself. Just check the link in the description below to play it.
And yeah, there is in fact an actual game called Movie Bob or Nazi. But yeah, can you see why people absolutely think this dude's just a right-winger disguised as a leftist now? The motherfucker is an actual fascist. He just switched jerseys. Hey. And yeah, going over the whole Movie Bob or Nazi quiz is gonna take a long time, so I won't delve into it, but I will probably link it in the VOD later. Yeah, definitely gotta look forward to that.
The reward for winning this game is watching the rest of this video! So
Dang it.
this is what Bob has become. This is what he is now, and is still like to this day. We went from a guy with some interesting topics and insight, a guy who was clearly having fun with his videos and skits, to this. A man who wishes death upon anyone who disagrees with him, a man who seems to have all the soul and passion sucked from his body. There is no fun anymore, there is no enjoyment anymore. Bob from the old days, telling his audience it's just a hobby, is gone. But you know what? I'm not going to take that. I'm going to have fun with this, damn it, even if we have to go back in time.
Oh yeah, we are about to go to this portion of the story. Brace yourselves, people. You're gonna... Once you hear everything, you're gonna say, yeah, that makes sense.
Before Goobergate and Twitter melted this man's brain, back when there was actually something there. We have to go back to what Bob once was. Bob Chipman is a Nintendo fanboy, and that's putting it lightly. Bob
Very
Chipman
fucking lightly.
worships Nintendo. You remember that little snippet from his first Game Over Thinker video?
This guy is still the gold standard. This guy is still God. This will be the greatest thing to happen to gaming since the invention of jiggle physics.
Turns out that wasn't a joke. I think he actually believes that. Bob has a fanatical obsession with Nintendo and Mario. It's flat out unhealthy. If you thought the whole wishing death upon Rotwingers was crazy, you ain't seen nothing yet. Some of you may recall a few months ago I did a video on the speedrunner Chibi, and late in the video I covered the mock funeral he did, and I actually got a lot of shit from people for the way I handled that, saying I was just picking on him for something he's passionate about, and I was hamming it up for laughs, alright? I will fully admit.
And we later learned that we weren't hard enough on Chibi. But yeah, enough about that.
To that.
Nothing.
For another video.
From Earthbound.
Wait, you're gonna what? The whole thing was just very awkward, and the singing didn't help, but it really wasn't that bad as I was making it out to be. The Janny's banning everyone in chat is still cringe, though. Well, believe it or not, Bob manages to surpass this in terms of absurdity. Yes, Bob held his own Nintendo-themed funeral, but not for Iwata. Oh no, he held a funeral, or a full 12-minute moment of silence for...
Yes, this is real.
He has a moment of silence, not for a person, but a magazine made to shill you games. This is why he's the template for that 38-year-old consumer meme. And on that note, shortly before Gamergate took over every cortex in Bob's brain, he released a book dedicated to his love for Nintendo, and more specifically, Super Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about the book.
Brick by Brick. And yes, I read it. And I don't think I can unread it. So from start to finish, I'm going to go through what each chapter entails. This damn thing is 200 pages long, so I don't think you want to know every little detail. So, chapter 1 of Brick by Brick it's legit just a history of Nintendo up to 2013 when the book released, with some blatant corporate worship and the kissing of Miyamoto's feet. Nothing interesting. Chapter 2 is all about Bob's childhood and his conversion into the religion that is known as Nintendo. How he was first introduced at a friend's house and wanted an NES of his own. He even fantasized about the game and drew pictures of it when he didn't own it, and when he finally got it, he became a fanatic. He was picked on a lot by other kids because of it, and he had been seeing a child therapist who offered him different types of medication, which his parents rejected.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
He eventually gets
Yeah, this dude had a diagnosed mental illness, and his parents did not treat it. Starting to see why this dude's a lolcow nowadays. Fucking hell, man.
To the reveal of Super Mario Bros. 3, you know, the topic of the book after all. The game's big reveal was in the movie The Wizard, which was just a huge advertisement for Nintendo, and he legit just watched this movie just for that. So it did its job. Good job participating in society, young Bob. He likens the reveal of Mario Bros. 3 to the JFK assassination and 9/11 of their respective generations. Yes, he is now comparing national tragedies to Mario. If that wasn't enough, a few pages later, he compares getting dragged into the 90s console war as his own personal Vietnam. You know, not downplaying the impact of those who fought in Nam at all. If this man is comparing him playing video games to actual events in history that affected hundreds of thousands, is it any wonder why his political views aren't taken seriously in the slightest? Skipping ahead a bit more, he got to play Mario World 2 Yoshi's On to completion, and found out, in the ending, that the brothers were being delivered to the Mushroom Kingdom instead of Brooklyn, so a bit of a continuity error in the series, since they were supposed to be from Brooklyn. But that really got to Bob. Yes, little things like that were enough to bother him. He was that obsessed. Going into the N64 and GameCube, Bob got older and got a job at Blockbuster, moving away from games for a bit so he could start focusing on school and his interest in films. He started his old blog where he reviewed movies, and it was basically the prototype Movie Bob. Around the 7th generation, he got back into games with the Wii and its motion controls, and the retro gaming boom that was going around, and also started watching videos from the Angry Video Game Nerd and the such, and so he started his Game Overthinker series, and you know the rest of the story from here. That's the end of Chapter 2. Chapter 3 and 4 are, well, how do I put this? The two chapters here, basically, are a walkthrough of Super Mario Bros. 3. These two chapters...
So, basically something you could just easily look on GameFAQs for.
detail every mechanic about the game, from the power-ups to the enemies, bosses, and level design, and once in a while, Bob will sprinkle in a few of his inner thoughts and things he did that day while he was playing through it for this book. There is not really much to comment on here. If you want a taste of what these two chapters entail, just pull up a guide on Mario Bros. 3 on GameFAQs. There is one thing these chapters have, though, and that's during his monologues. He goes on about his grandmother, whose health was in dire straits. She would go in and out of treatment until finally she passes away. Bob doesn't like funerals. Social situations like that scare him. So after they put her to rest and the family meets up to grieve, he runs off to buy an air conditioner. Yeah, he put an air conditioner before family. And that's how the book ends. His grandma dies.
Yeah. Probably not something to put in your book, is it, Bob? A real I shot my dog situation there.
He beats Bowser in Mario Bros. 3 and gives a one-page epilogue, and that's it. That was a complete waste of time. The critics on this book were not very kind to it. Bob scrubbed most traces of it off the web, and honestly, it's not even worth a pity read. Most of it is just a walkthrough of Mario 3. Unless you worship the ground Nintendo walks like Bob, there's nothing for you here. Oh, and did I forget to mention Bob has multiple books? No, I'm not reading any of them. This was enough. Don't quit your day job, Bob. After all that, we stand here today. Bob is still online, he still posts about politics all the time on Twitter, and he still makes video reviews. Thing is, when I watch his videos from recent times, they feel feels so lifeless. I don't get that there's any passion here anymore. I feel like he's just doing it for the sake of doing it now. He just looks old and worn out. Gone are the days of an energetic, passionate Bob doing skits that, while they are very cringe, they clearly had a lot of fun making them. There is no fun.
How the mighty have fallen.
I understand people get older, their worldview changes, and they like to talk about things they find important to them. But the medium of games and movies is meant to be fun. It's meant to entertain. That is their purpose.
If it's not fun, why bother?
I've said a lot about Bob today. I mean a lot about Bob. All the wishes of death upon people, all the talking down and crapping on his own audience, that's pretty heinous. But in the nicest way I can possibly say this, Bob, you need to lighten up. Nobody likes a doom and gloomer, and if you keep doing this crap, nobody will take you seriously, ever. It's never too late to clean up your image. This was the story of a man who just took inspiration from the people he watched, did his own version of it, and then had his mind melted by politics and Nintendo. What a rabbit hole to fall down. You should have taken your own advice, Bob. God bless, and like and subscribe. Go enjoy your hobbies in peace.
Buy my book.
Yeah.
Buy my book. 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 Buy my book.
Yeah, that was Magic Mush's video on Movie Bob. Yeah, pretty depressing revisiting this, honestly. Anyway, I'm gonna just continue this with the background music. Oh, hey Nick Susie. And it's a Gardevoir furret hybrid. Or, well, kinda. She's more of a Naga Gardevoir furret hybrid. Which I'm drawing in Sonic style. Because that was the prompt that I randomly selected. Well, it's kinda Sonic style anyways. Oh, yeah, I better save this. Alright, I need a quick background. Alright. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still alive. Kind of wrapping things up, though. Yeah, it's good. Noble. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, let's see. Oh, thanks. And let's see, where is it? Ah, here it is. So. Oh yeah, I still have to play that DLC. I figured out what Wednesday's video is gonna be. No, this is actually a different shiny furret OC. I just like furret. And ultimately use the shiny one. And the subscribe button. Alright, let's see. Gonna have to figure out how I did this the first few times. That was a trick that I normally use to make checkerboard patterns in specific suit. Oops. Okay, I remember. All right. There we go. All right, there we go. And there we go. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Huh. Alright, almost done. Just gotta get my usual. Alright. And looks like we are done with this. Well, the flat color version of this anyways. I will probably be shading this offline since kind of easier for me to do. But yeah, I gotta admit, it's a pretty fun. It was a pretty fun picture to make. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, and I will see you all next time.